and born in the 50s. Is that after the war? Is that after the war or before the war?
Yeah, it was just a little after.
I've taken that from my... I've got to say I've nicked that from my son Taylor, because anytime he shows me a picture, he'll show me a picture on a 500 GP bike. Is that before the war or after the war? So it's a bit of a stole up. Anyway, 59.
My son says the same.
Yeah. So I was born in 61, but it's still it sounds better.
Yeah, but I've got hair and you don't.
I know. You've got a charmed life and I've had to work so much harder. I've been to Wollongong, where you were born and brought up. Beautiful city, industrial city, beautiful city, lovely beaches, everything. And there's been a few riders come out of there. Tell us a little bit about your early years. Was there a dirt track scene there? Was there opportunities for young riders, kids to get on bikes and start riding?
Yeah, Wollongong seems to, I don't know if it's the water or the smog there from the steelworks, I'm not really sure, but we tend to have some good riders from there. We've got obviously Troy Corsa, we've got, what's the world jumping guy? He jumps all the big, I don't know his name now.
Yeah.
You know, the Arc de Triomphe and
Robbie
Madison. Robbie Madison's from Wollongong. I mean, there's loads and loads and loads of them. I was probably the first one to come out of there and had a passion for motorcycles. A lot of people ask me actually how did I begin riding bikes, and it's always a pretty good story. Is that my father was a truck, or he was a truck driver, and drove coal trucks and things like that.
The mosquito, isn't it?
Sorry, it's my mum. Just a sec. Mum.
Hi, Mum.
Hello, Mum. I'm good, Mum. Mum, can I quit tomorrow? I'm in the... Mum, listen to me. I'm in a... No, I'm not at a party. I'm on the stage talking to a whole lot of people. So, and they're laughing because I'm talking to my mum. Can I quit tomorrow? Bye. Hello. I'll call you tomorrow, Mum. Okay? I'll quit tomorrow. Okay, see you, Mum. Bye.
She heard you talking to your dad.
That was my mum in Australia. Who's 81 now, which is going fast. My mum, who worked in a cafe, that lady, and my dad was a truckie, and I've had pretty humble backgrounds. Typical steelworking town. I think Newcastle's a bit of that, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Hard-working, honest people.
Yeah. And my dad was a truckie, and he used to work on his truck around the corner. And one day, one of my mates got a go-kart for Christmas, and we started riding around the local school, and it was really cool getting in his cart, driving around. We used to put the piles of grass and drive through it like stunt drivers and so on. And I said to my dad, I really want a go-kart like my mate. I was 13, 14 years old. And
turn the telly down. Can you turn the telly down, or sorry?
And
or just the sound, just sound.
And some bullfit on TV there. And so I said to him, Dad, could I have a go-kart? And he goes, I can make one, and try and make one. So he got a lawnmower engine and put it on and bought some bit of steel and welded the whole thing together. And he said, there you go. And I was running around in a cul-de-sac, and then is that Mozzie again? And but the interesting was, it's not that bad. And I had no money for petrol, so I used to then decided to start being inventive or creative and started looking around for aluminium cans and
it's not that way. If you turn it off, it's still turned on.
So I used to do the shopping around collecting scrap metal and so on, and then I got onto the fact that there was some old scrap yards there, and I used to go in there and cut all the wires off all the old vehicles and got the copper and brass and go and cash it in and to collect money. And out of all that, I'd buy petrol, and the police would chase me around the streets and on as a wild man, and and drove carts around and put all the fruit around on the weekends and drive in and out and smash it everywhere, so I was a bit of a hoon. And I was looking for some other areas to try and find more copper and brass, and we went in there. I was with my mate, and there was a bike, a little Yamaha Agricultural 80, and I had no back wheel and I was sort of half buried on the ground. We went in and said to the guy, "Do you want that bike?" And he's going, "Yeah, I need a beer, $5. So we went halves and bought a motorbike that was rusted up with no back wheel, and my mate's father was an engineer, and I called my mum, and I sat in the back of the boot of the car and got it home, and we advertised in the local paper in Wollongong, and got a Honda back wheel, went cut and hacked it and put it in. My mate's dad fixed the engine up, and we got this little Yamaha Agriculture bike going for 10 or $15 or something. So it was a cheap start, but the problem was we were fighting over who was going to ride it all the time. That's what shareholders are like, and then my mum and dad and my mate's mother and father could see the passion for bikes, and I used to ride up and down the back of our house and into a paddock and annoy all the neighbours, and on the streets as well, and the police chasing me there. So then my dad said, well, we were buying parts from the local bike shop, and he just said, do you want to go and do a trials event? So I went and did a trials event called Mick Andrews Trials Event, and that's where I first started riding, but I didn't like trials much because it was all too slow, and although I used to go as fast as I could between each sections and sliding everywhere, and then go real slow again over the trials. But anyway, one thing led to another, and then someone said to me, why don't you go and do some racing down at Canberra? And so my dad started taking me down there, and I bought a
Dirt track,
yeah. And I got a little YZ 85 or 80 or something it was at that stage, and the whole process started from there. So we were doing lots of trips to Canberra, for a month. It was fast, good, winning, and it was all great fun. So then I turned 17, and then I decided to do something else.
Yeah. Had the old man done any sport, motorcycle sport, or was he involved at all? Did he like bikes, or
No.
just followed your passion and obviously did what he could?
No, my dad was just a truckie. He's never ridden a motorcycle. The only time he rode a motorcycle was in the local, just over the back of our hill there was a father and son race one day, and my dad's driven me up there, and we took this bike off, and the promoter said, oh, well, the kids will do 10 laps and then come in and pit, and then the dad can get on. And I went, yeah, let's do that, Dad. And I said, you can ride? Yeah, well, no, I can't, but just do it. And I came in, grabbed, he said, quick, Dad, I'm winning. He's jumped on and given a handful on this little mini bike, and it's just reared up and underneath him, and he's dragging him along, and his feet are way back there, and he can't shut the throttle off. It's just wheeling flat out, and he runs into two old ladies and knocks their ass over there. I was so pissed off because I was losing the race, and then I ran up there and picked the bike up, and there's people's bodies laying around. My dad's got blood dripping off his arms, and I've jumped on the bike and carried on and did his stints, and we lost, but it didn't matter. And then he just said, that's the first and last time I'm getting on a motorcycle, and he's never been on ever again, and he's hadn't forgotten it.
And the road racing thing, how did that come about? Did you get some attention, dirt tracking? Because obviously you start getting on TZ250s or whatever, that's a bit more expensive.
No, it's a very good question. I was 17 at the time, and I was involved in little bike shops and so on locally in town, and there was a guy in there called John Zammett, a friend of mine, and he said, there's a Wollongong Motorcycle Club Day this weekend at Oran Park. I'm sure people know that circuit in Sydney. And why don't you go up? I said, what am I going to ride? He goes, ride your dirt bike. So I went, well, okay. Put 21-inch rib tyre on the front and some flat bars. In fact, I got some photos in my phone here. Somebody sent it the other day, and it looks amazing. It was 1973, I think it was, 75 or 3 or something. And here I am, and I took the air filter off thinking, look at all these guys who road racing bikes with no air filter, except I didn't know you're supposed to jet them up. So I did about 4 laps, and the thing just locked up on the straight and didn't move after that, so it was locked solid, seized. So I hung around all day, and I watched John on his TZ250B model, and I said, John, can I ride? And I harassed him that much, and eventually he goes, yeah, all right, here's a go. So I went out, And I've never ridden, as I said, a road racing bike. And when I came around onto the straight at TZ, this is wah, 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 down the straight, and I've just gone, oh my God. I'm in love. This is just the most amazing feeling I've ever felt in my life.
Everyone from that era, I think I got on a TZ 350 from street bikes, and it was like, oh,
the acceleration and the peaking engine it was like it was ripping my arms out going down the straight, and I've just gone, oh, where has all this been all my life, and this is what I want to do. So I did about 20 laps in that afternoon, and then came in, and the guy, John, says, yeah, how fast you're going? I went, no. He said, you've broken the lap record for C graders for first timers. I went, oh really? That's fantastic. But yeah. And my friend Tony Hatton says he was watching me that day, and he's going, oh, he was waiting for the crash. And but yeah, it was. I just was instantly in love with the sport, and now I know what I'm going to do in life, because I got to the point with dirt track. Where am I going to go? I knew I was pretty fast and I could do it, and I was riding speedway as well a little bit. I tried that, but it never really grabbed me. And dirt track, I was riding at the time some 500 single Japs and riding Hagen chassis and all those sorts of things. But it didn't really do anything for me until that day. Then I went home and started reading magazines about some of the greats, the Kenny Robertses and Lucanellis and Neil Mackenzies and people like that. And I then started seeing about Randy Mamola, and I went, oh, he's the same age as me. And I went, oh, wouldn't it be good to be professional like him? And he was on the international scene at about 14 years of age. So I looked up to these guys amazingly, and just went, wow. And I started buying lots of books, studying. I imagine being a professional racer, that would be so cool. And it just drove me into. Then I bought a second-hand, went home, Dad, I want to buy a bike, bought a second-hand TZ250, and away I went, started winning races, and had a couple of crashes, broke my collarbone. That was a bit of a setback, but nothing disturbed me from it, and my vision.
You find it interesting. I find it interesting because then when you're racing, you just kind of you do what you do, and you make it happen. But when you actually look back, you only understand now how you made it happen, because you grab opportunities, or you have that thing with TZ that straight away that's it, and there's nothing else in your life, and you just find a way to make it happen.
Well, it's true. I mean, if you want something bad enough, you'll overcome all the obstacles, and that applies to everyone in this room. If you want something bad enough, and you have a vision, you have a commitment, and all you look at and think about is that, it'll happen.
See, back when I was your age like that, I looked at Randy and you and Freddie, and since when I got to know them all, and I thought of that they were just built, they were just born to do that, and someone gave them it, and I thought, how can a normal person do it? But like you say, when you find that focus and you want it bad enough, you find a way to make it happen.
Well, I use these stories. I use
Try turn it off completely. Somebody else.
What's good?
Pacemaker.
I use these stories for my son, because we're going through that difficult patch of trying to break him into MotoGP as well, and into some of the classes. Okay, I'll go get some room. I'll get in the back. And so, they're handy stories, and it's good to have the knowledge to pass on to, and so you're right, it's amazing stories that somehow you find a way.
But in a short period of time, from 17 and racing at Amaru and Oran Park, and then the first knowledge we had of you in the UK was a Morawaki connection. That happened pretty quickly. Was there some Japanese down in Australia that picked up on young Gardner?
That's actually a very good story. You've done your homework, haven't you?
Just a fan.
Yeah.
I've been stalking you for 30 years. Unfortunately on the racetrack as well, I never quite, occasionally got in front, but mostly stalking.
The Morawaki thing was a turning point in my career and my life.
Massive, it's got to be massive.
Yeah, but it came as a very strange story, because I was racing 250s and 350s in Australia, and basically I was confined to the Australian market. And at that time, Graham Geddes and John Pace were racing overseas, and I was really bitterly jealous because I wanted to be overseas and do it with them. I was doing an apprenticeship. I'm a fitter and turner by trade, and I'd race on the weekends and get back and go back to work and so on. And then I then won these Castrol 6 Hour and a few of these big races in Australia, production races with thousands and 750s and whatever. And then I was riding a superbike in Australia for a little bit for a guy called Peter Malloy, and I'd won the Castrol 6 Hour with Peter, and together with 2MMM was the Mentor motorcycle sponsor. 2MMM is a radio station in Sydney. Then connecting with me and winning was a big step in my career because it gave me a lot of exposure, and Peter Malloy got involved and started building a superbike. So he built a couple of superbikes, and then they had a series called the Swan Series in Australia. I'm not sure if anyone know about that.
Yeah.
The Swan Insurance Series. And I started, there was 4 rounds, I think 3 or 4 rounds. And the first round was at Oran Park, and I think I finished 3rd or 4th or something, and then we had a blow up. There was a couple of races on the day. And then the next race was in Queensland, but we had a blown up engine, so we couldn't go, and I watched it, and I was really pissed off watching it because I knew Moriwaki had come over to Australia to look for a new rider to take to America, to Daytona. and then I rang Peter, I said, oh, whatever you do, we've got to go to the last round, which was at the Sandown Raceway in Victoria, in Melbourne. So he says, oh, I'll see what I can do. So he bolted together parts from another bike and basically made a mixture of this thing and put it in his van, and it was one of these, Bedford little vans, Ford vans, and he's driven down there, and I flew down there, and so Sandown Raceway is in the city of Melbourne, and it's got a horse racing course in the centre. Anyway, it's got a great big grandstand at the side for the horse racing, and then it was really bad weather, and the first leg of the Swan Series was coming on, and I went, oh, it looks like it's going to rain. I'm going to go out with wet weather tyres on because I've always been very fast in the wet. So I fronted up on the grid with the only bike with wet weather tyres, and everyone else has got slicks, and everyone was laughing at me. And the race has gone underway, and I just kept watching, waiting from the rain, but bugging me, it didn't rain. So I came about 15th place or something, quite a long way down, so it certainly didn't work to what I was hoping. So that was the end of that chance with Moriwaki, because I knew he was in the grandstand or somewhere that weekend. I'd not met him. So then the heavens open up and it starts pissing down rain, and I'm going, oh geez, I wish I was out there racing now. And then they start calling the unlimited championship or unlimited Australian championship class in Australia, and I'm thinking, unlimited? I could put that 1000cc bike, but it was mostly for 750 TZ Yamahas. And I went, yeah, but I'm not entered. And I went, and yeah, all the entries come up onto the grid, it's raining, and hurry up, I want to get this race out of the way. And I went, where's the bike? Let's go out. So we were running around trying to find Peter, but he was up in the grandstand drinking beer with his mates. And one of my mates who was travelling with me, Malcolm, I said, where's the bike? He said, locked in the van. I said, where's the keys? He said, I don't know, Peter's drinking beer somewhere. So I said, you got a screwdriver? So I get a screwdriver. So we broke in the locks, got the van open, unplugged all the cars.